MIDDLEKAUFF! Heavy, hey! What's up?
I think there's one question to be answered, guy. You know what it is?
I don't. What is the question?
Do you hate animals?
I don't hate animals, John.
You do not like stray cats.
I don't mind stray cats. I don't like owned cats that people let wander.
What's a cat?
You own it.
They don't go on leashes.
You have a house, you have a yard, you have an apartment, you have a condo. That's where your cat goes. It's your cat.
I know, but when the cat gets outside, like, they kind of have a mind of its own.
It's not community property.
Well, what? I mean, we'll tell that to the cat. You know,
no,
they don't listen.
Close your door, leave the cat inside. If you got an outdoor cat, don't have a cat. What is the point? Somebody explain what the point of an outdoor cat is.
Well, they're not an outdoor cat. Just some cats like to go outside as well as they stay the majority of the time inside, right?
Cats are not community property. You own it, right?
So you close. Clearly, you have a neighbor who lets their cat outside, and the cat comes to your pad, right?
It just leaves its hair everywhere.
Like where in your house?
Backyard, like patio, like
furniture,
patio chair.
Gotcha.
Everywhere.
That's where he hangs out in the patio chair.
Very personal to me. This cat knows that we have a battle going on. We're head to head. The cat is winning. It's getting the best of me.
Do you ever walk out there and the cat is sitting there?
No.
So so you never see the cat?
Never. I've seen the cat in passing, like leaving.
Well, what time do you think the cat would sit there on the chair then? At night?
I think, yeah, in the middle of the night.
Oh, so you think it sleeps there sometimes?
Yes. Yes.
Well, here again, let's say they have those little cat doors where the cat can go in and out.
Yeah.
So the cat could go in, like they're sound asleep. What are they supposed to do? Put the cat on a leash? It's hard.
If somebody's dog wanders into the yard, what do I do?
But a dog's different because you kind of control. You put a dog on a leash. You don't put a cat on a leash. You
shouldn't have a cat then. You shouldn't have cat. There should not be outdoor cats.
Have you mentioned it to the neighbor?
No, because it's a cat. It's bullshit. That's what I'm saying. It's a loophole. If it was a dog, I'd call immediately. Hey, your dog's back here.
Yeah. Well, exactly. It's very.
They would say to me what you just said. What do you want me to do? It's a cat.
Are you friends with a neighbor?
I don't even know exactly whose cat it is part of the problem.
Oh, you've just seen the cat, but you don't know exactly where the cat lives.
Yeah, I think, but all these cats look the same. So, like, is that their cat? I don't know. I can't tell.
But you've never caught the cat in the act.
No. I've caught it leaving the yard, walking through the yard, and I know the black and gray hair. I know which cat it is.
What kind of patio? Like, is it?
It's just like a cushion. Like a cushion.
So you have like a hard, like iron kind of chair type deal with a cushion?
Cushion on it.
Yeah. So it's not. I mean, it's not the lazy boy or anything inside. It's outside.
Well, it's unsittable. You have to use
a little tape thing
to get it all out because it's cat hair and it doesn't come out. And the cat, it's like they're dirty, so it like leaves a stain. It smells. It's just disgusting.
Yeah. Well, how are you going to win this war?
Well, everything you Google says humane ways, as if that's my primary concern. Like, you don't want to get them sick.
Humane ways to what? Get the cat going away?
Yeah. Here's some humane things they don't like, but also won't hurt them, like smells and tastes. Now, I'm not gonna kill anybody's cat. I'm not into that. But I love that that's everybody's first concern.
What about doing this? Like a plastic type animal you put out there at night, something that would kill a cat, like a plastic coyote or something.
Right.
Like if you go to a golf course, sometimes you see like plastic dogs around the lake to keep ducks out. Something like it, but just a plastic coyote. Maybe it forces the cat to go somewhere else.
The problem is cats are smart, John. I got these like spikes, like this tray. It's like flat and it's got these spikes on it. Like a cat wouldn't want to sit on them. And I put them. And the cat, after like a couple days, figured out I could just move them.
It moved the spikes?
Just lays between them.
This cat is dominating your backyard.
It is all over me.
Yeah,
this cat. I am Jimmy Ward, and this cat is Brandon Aiyuk right now.
It is kicking your ass.
It's like, I'm Nick Saban's defense, and this cat is Johnny Manziel. And it knows that we're in a face-off. That's the part that kills me.
Well, I think what's bullshit is like, why can't the cat sleep in their backyard? Right?
Exactly. Thank you.
But what if they don't have patio furniture that's comfortable?
Again, why?
But again,
is this
the cat doesn't know.
concern?
The cat doesn't know. It just gravitates toward comfortability. You know?
Why is this any of my concern?
But it's not. But I don't think there's any way for the people to stop it. Right?
Keep it inside. Oh, I don't know. He likes going outside. Well, how is that my problem?
Well, it's not. But I don't know if it's fixable on their end.
You got to come over. You come look, and then you tell me if
I'm not saying I would enjoy it either. I didn't know that's where you were going to go with it. I would have assumed that you just like the neighbor's cat walks by the front yard. I get it. Now,
I don't care about that.
Here's my take. Let's say the cat never existed. How many hours per month would you sit on that chair? Does your wife sit on the chair as a group? Like, do you use it, or is it there just for looks?
I don't know. I use it less because I got to lint roll it.
Yeah, gotcha. No lint rolling cat doesn't exist. Would you use it?
Yeah, I don't.
See,
10 minutes. But that's up to me. That's not the cat.
I know, but so it's more principle. It's not
Well,
to me if it ruined the function of like it was pissing in your barbecue, and you're like, we barbecue every night. I get it.
Right,
you know?
right.
But it's sitting on a chair that you probably neither of you use, but in theory, you think you would use it more. It's like a kid when you take away their toy, the toy they're not playing with, and they start crying. It's like you weren't even playing with the fucking toy.
But it's knowing that I can't get if you said I'm coming over Friday, I know that I would need to spend 10 minutes trying to clean that.
10? I mean, how much?
You can't. Cat hair is fucking outrageous. Yeah. It's like a tick. Each sliver is like a little tick. You cannot get it out. I'm gonna snap. On the stream, Kid Trickster says, Haberman, please don't grow the beard. Does this person think that you're Haberman? Or that I shave daily and it's just...
I think you should grow a beard.
It itches. Hey, everybody. Great to see you on YouTube. Was that 7 minutes on cats, John?
Yeah.
Time flies. If you're listening to the podcast, it's great to have you. We appreciate you. Subscribe to the YouTube. Like the YouTube. Send us pictures of you and your Tito's, John. Tito's handmade vodka. It is our favorite. It is the number one, the original craft vodka in this nation. Since 1995, our guy Tito Beverage built his very own distillery, put his life savings into it, went all in, and then started winning awards. World Spirits Competition, the Chairman Trophy for the world's best vodka tonic. I like going to the website. I know you do too. You find recipes. Last year we found, the one that was good last year was the vodka, ginger beer, and cranberry juice with lime. Remember that one?
Fantastic. That's hard to beat. You tweeted out on the Jeter documentary. He caught himself because this was, I think, before Tito kind of hit the open market. It makes sense, right? Alex Rodriguez, he's dating that girl who's like a fitness model. Very, Tito Soda is very healthy. He just naturally dropped. I don't even. It just unconsciously.
How
you
good
just
was
say
that?
just Tito Soda. I was making a Tito Soda because let's face it, it is Tito Soda. Tito's, whatever you're drinking with Tito's is the easiest bar call since Jack and Coke. It's just everywhere you go, Tito's and something. Tito's and most of us drink Tito's and soda. I've been going with a little splash of cran just to get a little flavor in there.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, you just go splash of cran and it gets a little coloring. You're like, oh, that's a good looking drink. Obviously the John Daly, for those of you that, we still got it a month of summer. You got golf going down. Have some John Dalys at the turn. Have some more when you get into the clubhouse. We went and had a bunch of Tito sodas at the Granite Bay Golf Club, it's called. Not country club. I guess to be a country club, you need tennis and swim. So you can be a private club, but if you don't have the tennis and swim, you just usually go by the golf club.
Okay. And
so we went in to get a bunch of Tito soda at Granite Bay Golf Club. And their snacks guy, sometimes you go in somewhere, especially the clubhouse. So a lot of them have like popcorn. A lot of the private clubs have like a little, maybe some Cheez-Its or whatever. This had a line of started with popcorn, then went M&Ms, peanut M&Ms, Reese's Pieces. I mean, this thing went on for 17 different options. And me and my brother, fat guys at heart, and we just loaded up trays and just scarfed it down with our Tito's and sodas.
God, that sounds good.
Yeah. Just did the natural, a lot of people do this when they go to the movies, just put a huge thing of popcorn and then you just went to the peanut M&M thing and just started dumping it in and just kind of went like this and just they're all over the place. And then I even went to the Reese's Pieces, the little ones and poured those in as well. I mean, it was my version of Chex Mix, or not Chex Mix, but what's it called? What's the mix called that's supposed
Trail
to be
mix?
healthy? Trail mix, yeah.
Yeah. I think the move I discovered years ago, where somebody told me popcorn at the movies, a lot of butter, and then you dump the peanut butter M&Ms in the popcorn and shake it up.
Yeah. Is trail mix healthy if all you do is eat the majority of the M&Ms?
Just chocolate, less healthy, and just peanuts, only peanuts, like no almonds, no cashews, just peanuts, less healthy.
Yeah.
The cheapest one is the peanuts and the M&Ms. Anyway, yes, his last name is Beverage. Tito's, distilled and bottled in Austin, Texas, 40% alcohol by volume, namely 80 proof, crafted to be savored responsibly. And again, we love when you send us photos. DM us on Instagram, on Twitter, wherever. Our emails, I think, are both publicly available on our Twitter pages. I think mine is still there.
Just our names.
Photos. Yeah. You can just send us photos of you enjoying at Tito's. We appreciate that. That helps. We appreciate Tito supporting us. We appreciate you supporting us by sharing with us how you enjoy your Tito's, because Tito's likes that. So,
yeah. Kyle likes Tito's, just with blueberry Red Bull.
Blueberry Red Bull. Yeah, that's what we told Kawakami. Drewish on the stream. Remember this one? Tito's on the Rocks, little crystal light powder.
Never had that, but that sounds good.
Yeah. Okay. Where do we want to start today? I mean, we got Deshaun news break. We just went to Niners practice. I guess we should probably start there.
But I'm kind of Deshauned out, but it is.
Yeah. Anytime I've driving down to Niners practice the last few days, you look for podcasts to listen to, and if it starts with like breaking down Deshaun, that is an immediate pass for me. I don't know.
I'm out.
Also, breaking down the Dolphins. That's another one. I'm like, that deserves. The punishment deserves 8 seconds, unless we're laughing about it. Now, did they just lose out on the replacement for Tua? Like, that kind of interests me, because they had 2 1s, and are they going to be bad enough to draft Tua's replacement? Are they even going to want to? This year's class with Stroud and Bryce Young being at the top of the draft, they may not go 1-2 because the linebacker from Alabama might go depending on who's drafting. But it feels like those 2 guys are going to be gone by the top 3. Right?
Levis, a lot of hype on Levis.
We'll see.
Stanford kid, Virginia kid. There's quarterback year.
Oh, Tanner McKee. Yeah.
It's quarterback year.
Yeah.
North Dakota State probably has another guy.
Carlo on the stream. Prediction on the Niners starting O-line. I mean, it's starting to look like it's pretty, I don't want to say settled, but it's looking like it's 71, John.
Yeah.
Trent Williams at the left.
I think he's entrenched. Yeah.
Banks, are you feeling entrenched?
I mean, I feel like he's just going to get the shot. If you told me it doesn't go well, like, he's not on scholarship there, but I think this is where, guys that have been in the league would just tell you, people claim that draft status doesn't matter, right? Like, it doesn't matter where you start. Well, it kind of does. Like, is Banks getting a shot? Like, if Aaron Banks was the 7th round pick, not the 2nd round pick, is he just consistently repping at the ones? I don't know. It's today was definitely hard to tell. I mean, they were in shorts and a t-shirt just with a jersey over it. But I've seen a couple of times that make me a little nervous, but I have no problem force feeding him there. But, you have the ability to pivot just because, like, the backup, if your starter is average to below, the backup is no different usually, right? Where the starter is huge, like there's a gap, is when you get even like a McGlinchey, right? A functional starter at right tackle or an above average guy. The gap between him and the backup is probably like 1 out of 10 is like 3 or 4 notches, where if the guy's just a low level starter, then him and the backup are basically a coin flip. We've learned that with Brunskill over the years, right? Like, I'd be like, this guy from the AAF, and then you see him, you're like, yeah, he's just a functional player, right?
And at this point, it's shaping up like he's going to be the backup center swing guard, right? It looks like Jake Brendel has the inside track at center. I mean, we haven't played a preseason game yet. And Jack Buford, like, it seems to me, if you're looking for something to watch during their preseason games, we don't know exactly who will be playing what, but I think that'll be probably one of the bigger, like, beat writer, the fans that get in the nitty gritty of the offensive line play. Like Jack Burford, is going to be one of the bigger stories, because right now he is getting first team reps with them at right guard, the 4th round pick out of UTSA, and then obviously McGlinchey at right tackle. So,
yeah. I think they'll be fine.
The thing, I mean, Jake Brendell's played started 3 games at center, something like that. Obviously, Burford is a rookie. I heard Mayoko say, I heard Barrows say that of all the second rounders in last year's draft, only one player played fewer snaps than Aaron Banks, who played 5.
Who was it?
Kyle Trask,
who was just a backup quarterback to play 0 snaps.
Bucks, right? The Bucks weren't drafting him.
So you're saying that basically every second round pick played at one point in time.
I'm saying I'm saying every second round pick played more snaps than Aaron Banks, except for the guy who was drafted to be a third quarter. Like, they didn't even draft Kyle Trask to be Tom Brady's backup last year.
Yeah, Gabber was, yeah.
So that's how much Aaron Banks played last year. 5 snaps.
Again, a little nitty gritty, because even just your average like diehard football guy is not concerned with like the Niners guards and centers. I do think, just because we spend so much time, and rightfully so, we're not going to talk much about guards and centers. Like, shit, that bored me when I worked in the NFL, and you and I would be out of business if we did it. But just from a big picture football draft status, which I think everyone's always intrigued by, if you just say draft round, there is pressure on Aaron Banks to just be like a couple-year starter. When I draft the guy in the second round, it's one thing if he was a 5th rounder. It's like, it turned out he wasn't good enough, whatever. Burford, if it in a couple years, like, whatever. I got no problem taking
Spencer
swings.
Burford, I called him Jack Spencer.
Luckily, no one watching this knows either. But to me, Banks, like, if not only, it's one thing just to earn the starting spot, which I think, is he really earning it, or is it just, he's kind of just getting it? If he can't hold on to it, you and I talked about this, I think, on Tuesday's show after the practice. Like, that's a huge whiff, because especially this team, right? They just, for the next several years, including that draft, like, they only have so many bullets in the gun drafting in the top 100. They don't have. I mean, Miami has their first round pick coming up. So remember how big of a, like, part of the reason I'm excited about Drake Jackson is, like, that was a huge pick for them. That was their first pick of the night at pick whatever. I mean, shit, they were the NFC Championship game, so it was the end of the second round. And it's why I'm hyping them up, because I think, like, you should not be able to get a potential talent like that at the end of the second round. Like, I wouldn't have blamed them. It's like, just, we didn't have great options. Like, yeah, I get it. Like, you didn't have a first round pick. There's no wheeling and dealing to be done. But with Banks, shit, I mean, there's just pressure on that kid to be good. There just is. And I think part of the thing that was a little weird is you and I are at practice today, and we're standing next to Jake Brendel, the potential starting center. And he's not very big. I remember standing next to Alex Mack last year. And again, I mean, Mack at one point in time, first round pick, blue chipper from Cal, several time Pro Bowler. He was a big dude. Remember a couple times last year, you stand next to him, he's all sweaty ass. He's a big motherfucker.
I saw him at Pac-12 Media Day last week, John. I saw him from afar. I don't know exactly what, but he's got like a keg for an upper body chest.
Mack.
Yeah, Alex Mack. It's crazy.
Like, you walk by Mack
like a golf shirt.
If you walk by Mack, you didn't know who the hell he was at just a burger joint, and someone's like, that guy plays NFL, you don't even hesitate to be like, hell yeah, that guy plays in the NFL, right?
Yeah.
You and I were talking, like, Jake Brendel is he's small. Now, and I told you, like, in this scheme, and Kelsey has done it for a long time, Kelsey is not a very big guy either. You can get away with quicks and great athleticism. But Mack, who was, I mean, literally the last year of his career, they do not look close to the same. I mean, they just don't. So it's just they're downgrading in terms of size greatly. He's small. I would
experience.
I would guess, just on the eye test, there can't be many smaller centers in the NFL. Would you agree? Just looking at him. You always give yourself an extra inch.
6'4", so even if he's 6'3", he spreads out the 299 well.
So he says 299. He might weigh 288.
288.
What do you think Mack was doing? Is he working for somebody?
They have like alumni meetings. Usually he might be on an alumni council. I think he is. So they have those guys. Maybe that's what it was. I'm not exactly sure, but anyway.
I almost said coming to see Sonny Dykes, and I realized Sonny's been gone for a while.
John, here's a question on the stream. Sonny Dykes at TCU now.
I know. He's been multiple other places since he left the Burke.
He was Danny Gray's coach.
It was pretty clear, like, it was a bad fit. But I would have said, like, is this guy, like, he's had a lot of success.
All right. YouTube question from Josu. Brandon Aiyuk got that dog in him? All I see is Devontae Adams.
Oof, 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 oof.
So the question is, are we here to stop the Brandon Aiyuk hype, or are we here to add to it? I think you and I both subscribe to the theory that when everybody else zigs, you should zag. But zigging right now when it comes to Brandon Aiyuk means not saying he looks great, because he is everybody's sleeper candidate for breakout player. And we've been to practice 3 days in a row. Every day he looks fantastic. I think he's the standout player. People have said Travarius Ward is the best looking player. He didn't practice Tuesday. Nick Bosa is the best looking player. We could debate it, but there is no question that Brandon Aiyuk is in that conversation, and that's what it looked like again on Wednesday. Jimmy Ward, after practice, said, quote, he's having the best camp out of everybody on the team, well, besides Bosa. BA has taken his game to another level. It's crazy, honestly.
It's funny. Bosa just gets put in like the Tiger Woods LeBron category. It's like, yeah, he's just the best guy. But you know how we do, like, non-quarterback, non-Nick Bosa, and even Trent Williams. Like, it's a unique team that way. The one thing I would say, and I know you, and I'm not saying I don't like him as much as you, but there's the excitement out there is enormous. Deebo is an elite player, and practice for every player is not the same. Brandon, like, if you didn't know Trent Williams was the best left tackle, you wouldn't really notice him beside his size at practice.
Right.
And even at moments now, like, they're clearly, I think, putting Kittle on a little different of a plan because he's practiced so hard over the years. Like, you wouldn't know that, like, yeah, they have one of the best tight ends in the league too. Aiyuk is practicing like Kittle would have 3 years ago. And part of it is he works all over the field. He goes deep. It really stands out. Like, to me, Deebo had two moments yesterday. The play with Jimmy when he hit him and another deep bomb where it's like, I know he's elite. Like, I've seen it. He's one of the best players in the league. And I'm not trying to diminish Aiyuk, but I think Aiyuk's like, is Aiyuk the best? It's like people are just kind of saying this. Well, Deebo is not, like, he ain't going to break Alshire's tackle in practice. So it's hard to truly quantify. And I'd even say George a little like that too. Like, at any moment, George could have an 8-catch, 140-yard, 3-touchdown game, right? Now, I do think Brandon, one thing that's really standing out is his skill set. Like, when you can do that, you and I saw Amari Cooper's career from the jump. And I think it's pretty clear he's probably underachieved overall, but he underachieved relative to who? Like the rest of the league, he's been dramatically better than, what do you think, 95% of wide receivers over his career? Like, because his floor, when you can run routes and you just are that talented, your floor is so high. And it's like Amari, like, pissed the Cowboys off. You look, he had like 90 catches, 7 touchdowns, or whatever last year, or whatever it was. I mean, he missed some games. I think it was like 70 catches because he missed 3 or 4 games with the COVID. But you watch him, you go, yeah, he can at any moment 5 catches and a half, right? And to me, Aiyuk is just completely raising his floor because we saw it over his 2-year career, even through the doghouse and his rookie year. We've definitely seen some moments where, like, holy shit, this guy, I mean, he's had walk-off touchdowns in the NFL. He's had enormous moments in enormous games. Now it's just like, is every game, are you getting a floor of a guy that you close your eyes and you're getting 75, 1,006 just minimum to start? Because that's what, and that's his first step. Like, ultimately, Devontae, before he came Devontae, he just rose his floor so high. And then once you just keep rising it. And then if your quarterback's good, you can hit a ceiling, and part of what he's going to have going for him. And this really speaks to what's crazy about what you would say Devontae the last couple of years. Like, who else were the DBs worried about? Like, when you have Deebo, it's not like, well, let's say Aiyuk's going off, move Jalen Ramsey on Aiyuk, then who's covering Deebo? That is the benefit of having 2 sweet dudes. But I think in all this hype, and he's earned it because he's killing it. When we talked about him yesterday in the fight, we hadn't seen his quote yet to Mooch on the fight about how the reason they fought, not because Fred was annoying him or whatever, at least according to him, it was simply because we were getting punked for a little while on defense. The defense was punking us for a couple days. And like we talked about him being the alpha, he didn't admit to being the alpha, but he's like, I had to fucking basically, like, I had to do something. Like something had to change and I had to get it going for us. And it makes a little sense now, right? Because when Fred lit him up, it was just like, these guys are demolishing their offense from the passing standpoint. And I that was sweet. That was a sweet quote. Now, I don't know. He just posted something on Instagram like, has Fred been treating him like a rookie? Who knows? There might be more to it. I think it's fair to say the way he attacked Fred, there's a little more to it than just like we were getting shoved around. Like Fred might have been annoying the shit out of him for 2 weeks.
Well, Fred, by the way, doesn't want to back down. The first snap of 11 on 11, it started with Fred Warner just yapping.
Yeah. But ultimately, like, could this guy have a career where could he be a true one day? When you give a shit, and it surely looks like he does, and you have the talent, one thing I've learned, you never put like anchors on people. You never put limits on people in terms of a scout or projecting players. Because when you do, and you can't remember, it's like how good Clay's going to be. Well, he's addicted to basketball. He's going to be a superstar, right? Like looking back, remember, because you didn't quite understand how much it meant to him, and just watching how much it kind of feels like it means to him. Again, just now, he's only third year in. This is the first year where he's kind of breaking out. It feels like you never truly know, right? You got it, because sustaining that love is like, you just takes time. I don't blame anyone for being bullish, but I do think we're kind of overlooking how unreal 19 is.
You're 100% right. Deebo's game translates better to games than to practice, whereas Aiyuk's, I think, goes both ways. But if you make spectacular catches and you get open down the field, then you're just going to make more plays in practice. Doesn't mean you look better, but I think if Aiyuk was 2 inches taller, you'd have no reservations about saying this can be wide receiver 1, right? That's the only thing I think now in his game, because he's fast enough, right?
I think his play speed's fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah. And he's tough. He goes over the middle. I think the thing that's really stood out watching
ball skills are elite.
His ball skills. That is the thing. He can get open, but he consistently is making contested catches and catches where if he was 2 inches taller, maybe he wouldn't have to go as high to get them. I think it's clear that there was some trust with Trey, that Trey thinks I can put it up there. Not quite like, like Montana to Dwight, like I'm going to throw it only where Dwight can catch it or it's going out of the back of the end zone. I think Trey throws some balls that it's just like it's up there. Either Brandon's catching it or no one's catching it. Irony is if you do it over the middle of the field, it doesn't quite work that way. But Aiyuk makes those plays. Aiyuk consistently 3 or 4 times a practice is making catches where he has to climb the ladder, go up and get it with his fingertips, still bring it down with a defender right there. And those situations in a practice feel the most like things that happen in a game. Whereas Deebo's practice situations are not anywhere close to what happens in a game. But I do wonder if Brandon Aiyuk's skills will benefit more from Trey Lance than Deebo's will. Not that Deebo won't be the same guy, but is there any part of Deebo's game that hasn't been utilized with Jimmy Garoppolo, right? Like, do you want to get on the ball in space more? Yeah, but he's really not a down the sideline, over the shoulder defender right there, pass catcher. Whereas Aiyuk can do a lot of that stuff and we haven't really seen it. So I think he stands to have a little bit more of a jump just because Trey's skills benefit him in a way. Jimmy he does stuff that Jimmy didn't do that really falls into Aiyuk's kind of skill set.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I think I am so excited to watch this offense. Now, I think that's the area that is going to put an immense amount of pressure on the quarterback, because we're all like, well, I know you're inheriting a superstar wide receiver. You got this other guy that everyone would bet the house on being sweet in 11, and we know how good Kittle is. And you got Juszczyk. And I just know you could Orlando Gary to
Orlandis.
Orlandis, Gary to Mike Anderson.
Mike Anderson. Wasn't Mike Anderson in the military?
Yeah, to Elijah Mitchell. Like you have nothing but faith in the 49ers running back. So it's like when the only question is like the left guard, it is. I would say it's a better situation than Patrick Mahomes inherited because I think there were still questions on some of his tackles. Eric Fisher, maybe they had just signed Jeff's brother, Mitchell. I mean, that was a pretty good situation too, but this is it doesn't get much better. Tyreek, it's still pretty early in Tyreek. I feel like Tyreek became Tyreek with Mahomes, but maybe I'm underestimating it. He definitely had some moments with Alex. But man, it doesn't get much better, guy. Part of some of the great Harbaugh teams, what would they have done for these wide receivers? Remember, it was like Crabtree and like Randy Moss. It was like Ted Ginn. The receivers were not very good. Jauan Jennings.
He had Vernon Davis, who was
true. But they have they have a tight end too. The receivers, like those two wide receivers.
Yeah,
like Crabtree wasn't as good with the Niners to me as even Aiyuk can be. Like Aiyuk's just quicker, and you and I are Michael Crabtree guys. Like the Crabtree that we saw in Oakland turned out like this guy was a very, very good player, but he was slower.
Came back. He had the Achilles injury. Remember?
True. And he was never that fast. Remember, refused to run before the combine.
Michael, multiple people on the stream have asked, how is Danny Gray progressing? We thought he had a good day yesterday. Didn't do as much today. Jauan Jennings is not, to be honest, I wouldn't say he's been great. I don't know if it's been bad necessarily. It's so hard to know sometimes in practice, given all the different responsibilities. But if we're judging it just on drops or catches, had a couple drops today. I don't know if you would there was a ball on a fade. I wouldn't call that a drop, right? It was a very difficult play. I'm not.
Is that the one that Ambry picked off?
No, I am counting that. There was a ball on a fade that kind of hit his hands, but it was too high. But there was a 50-50 ball that Ambry Thomas took away from him.
Do you think it looks when you're next to those two guys and Aiyuk's having the camp of all camps and Deebo's just a stud, that every drop feels like two drops when you're the third guy? Or it would feel bad if it was just a normal guys? Because I do think it stands out a little bit when you're kind of judged against those other guys.
I think it stands out with Jauan Jennings just because the whole offseason we've spent in Sharpie being like clear number 3 wide receiver.
And he earned it, right? How he finished last year. You and I went to OTAs. He looked sweet.
Difficult situations, yeah. He had a drop yesterday on a deep ball. Had a drop in like the drill where you run, where you turn your back to the pass thrower, you turn around, you run at him, do that thing. He and Danny Gray actually had back-to-back drops in that drill. So I don't think it's been great from that perspective, but he did cut his teeth in really difficult situations. But I thought a couple concentration drops, and then we do have to give DB's credit, right? Ambry Thomas on a 50-50 ball. He made the play.
One of those guys that rip it out of his hands.
And you gave Emmanuel Mosley credit on a deep ball that Trey Lance threw today to Deebo. Deebo's going down the left sideline, and Trey puts it over his backside shoulder, and somehow Emmanuel got in there and knocked it away.
He just timed it perfectly right. It was a great pass by Trey in terms of the location, right? Like down the sideline on his shoulder on the sideline side, that way to his hands. Right as it was hitting Deebo's hands, Ambry came through with the swipe. Or not Ambry, but Mosley came through with the swipe on one of his hands. You come through with a hammer swipe.
DBs get credit.
Yes. A lot of times they take a lot of credit for shit they had nothing to do with. I give him credit there.
Oh,
that's Richard Sherman, man. If you ever wanted to be a GM and get out of Amazon, he's been all over that guy for years. Like that's
Emmanuel Mosley, yes.
Guy, I don't care. An undrafted free agent corner who starts on an elite defense, like that's I would say there's
might play a lot of press man.
That is not normal.
Right? Like part of the reason they didn't get to do the stuff they wanted to do last year defensively is because he wasn't around as much.
He got banged up, yeah.
One other Danny Gray note. I forgot about this. I don't know. I don't think we were standing together at the time. They were doing this drill where the receiver runs to the sideline and tries to drag his toe, keep both feet in bounds. And Danny Gray didn't get both feet down on a play where it shouldn't have been that difficult to get both feet down. He didn't drag his back foot. I thought he had enough time, easy for me to say, but I thought he had enough time just to get the foot down, but he didn't try to drag it, stepped out. There's a referee right there who's doing this. That's, I would say, disappointing. That's a transition for a college player where you only have to get one foot down to an NFL player. So that's just one. We're talking, a few times people have said this. You guys are nitpicking, Trey specifically, but we're talking about one play out of many snaps early in camp. But that is what we're observing. We're just telling you what we observed. And that was his shot in that drill to get 2 feet down, and he didn't do it. So
what do you think happens at practice with their coaches and the execs? You nitpick practice. Like, what the fuck?
Don't worry, fellas. Not nitpickers.
They're doing
One thing
this.
I learned from Saban. No nitpicking.
You think they're doing this for shits and giggles? Like, what's the point of all this, guys? We're just every day changes. Like, you should improve. You should get better.
Do the drill again.
I mean, it's
Friday.
Part of I'm pretty bullish on Danny Gray. He's playing this year. He is going to. I don't know if he's going to be a 30 catch guy. It might be 14, but he will get catches when the season ends.
Yeah.
He will score. Danny Gray will score a touchdown for the 49ers. That's my prediction. I don't know how many, but I think he's got a minimum one.
So there was a situation yesterday, and I actually have the video of it. It's so far away, it's not worth showing. But I was telling you about it where the Niners were doing where the quarterbacks were throwing to the receivers. One group of receivers on one side, one group on the other side, two quarterbacks. Quarterback on the right, throws to the right. Quarterback on the left, throws to the left, right? Well, they had Deebo and Aiyuk split out. Aiyuk left, Deebo right. Trey Lance was on the left. He was going to throw to Aiyuk. Sudfeld was on the right. He was going to throw to Deebo. Looking at Aiyuk, Trey Lance is saying something to Aiyuk about whatever the route's going to be. He looks to the right. He sees Deebo. He grabs Sudfeld and moves Sudfeld over to his left so that they switch. He switched spots with Sudfeld so that he could throw to Deebo. And I do wonder if Trey Lance knows that him and Deebo he's had plenty of reps with Aiyuk. He needs more time with Deebo. And then today they had another teaching moment. Deep ball. The ball goes down the sideline. Deebo broke it off. Who did the wrong thing?
I mean, shit, I don't have the play, but I'd assume the way Deebo acted is that Trey did. And that's part of, this is what we talked about last year with going with Jimmy. And it worked out because they ended up getting to the playoffs. But this is where it would have been a disaster if they had lost that Rams game and missed the playoffs and not have had those extra 3 weeks. Because those are type reps. What is the NFL, right? It's not just audibles at the line of scrimmage. It's audibling as the play's going. Like the options in a route based on the coverage. Well, Drew Brees, Peyton Manning, and Tom Brady didn't just know that when they showed up or their first start. You learn that over time. And Deebo clearly went to him and did one of those classic coach things like, hey, man, when the safety cheats, it might just be when he's 2 yards inside the numbers, I'm always going to go the deep out, not the post. You just throw it at the sideline. That's where I'm going to go. Isn't that what every football nerd, when Peyton and Reggie Wayne talked or Tom Brady and Edelman talked, it's about, remember last year, there was the viral video of Kelsey Hill and Mahomes in the playoff game where Kelsey's like, looks at Tyreek. He's like, go behind me. Remember on the 13 seconds on the second play? And it was like, these guys are like Steph, Clay, and Draymond. And how would they not be? They've been playing together for so long. He saw something. Kelsey's like, go this way. And boom, they got that extra 20 yards and they kick the field goal. But does that happen if they're in their first year of playing? Probably not, right? And that's just part of football. And to me, that's going to be part of, like, that's going to happen a lot this year. You and I were talking before we hopped on. I think some of his intercept, like a lot of Jimmy picks happen on like slow ball, like was way slow and the ball came out late on like an out and it was like a pick six. Or, it's like, oh my God. I think Trey is going to have more, and like Mahomes and Allen have these early in their career, the deep shots that just like Stafford had a couple of them early last year where he led it to Odell Beckham when they first played the Niners and it just hit Mosley.
Forced it to Odell Beckham.
Yeah, but he got it like a Willie Mays catch. Yeah. He's going to have some Willie Mays picks 40 yards down the field. Like that's a lock to happen. Because when you're pushing the ball down the field, which is going to be his number one attribute to me as a passer, we've talked about this all week, going deep, he's going to get fooled by some coverages. And you saw that happen today, which is 100% understandable. And you just got to learn through it. And hopefully it happens right when you're up 21-7 and not when you're down 17-13 in the fourth quarter driving against the Rams, right? And I think Kyle will I think the first couple games, and this is where we talked about, like, the number one thing when the schedule released was, like, who are their first couple games against? Is it, like, the Rams? Is it the Bucks or the Packers or whoever their toughest opponents were? Is it the Chiefs? It was the Bears.
Maybe the Cardinals defense, even though he's played them.
Yeah, that would have been a tough game. And Seattle, who we think is going to be terrible. It's like, okay, he kind of gets to – if you told me he's got like 3 picks through a couple games and they win both of them, I actually think that would be a very healthy thing. And even I saw Kyle, I think, quoted early on in this, like maybe before we were going to practice when they were in shorts and T-shirts, like last week, like if shit doesn't go wrong, when there were some struggles, when he's like 9 of 24, like what's my, like, I want this to go long. I'm a coach. Like that's right. We're working through stuff, but some of the stuff that's going to happen in the games that you don't. I mean, these defensive coordinators get paid $2 to $4 million in the NFL for a reason. Some of them are really good, right? And some of these defensive players, hell, some of them are in the Niners division, right? I guess Honey Badger. I don't even know where he's at, but they're just going to play these safeties and linebackers that can just.
You say Buda Baker?
Yeah, Buda for sure. I was trying to think of the guys on the Rams, but I don't even know. Is
Weddle back?
No, he usually comes back like I think January 1st.
2025. Taylor Rapp,
who you might want to throw after.
Yeah. Jordan Fuller.
I just think that, like, be prepared for him to get fooled. Which is be prepared for that's a young quarterback. That's part of this. I'm already prepared for it. I'm ready to live through it. Is Kyle?
Yeah. Yes, he is. He's about to do it. He's doing it. It's happening. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
Because I started thinking this morning when he said we got to start the season fast, be aggressive, that kind of stuff. What does that really mean, you think, to him? When Kyle Shanahan says we got to start the season fast, we got to be aggressive, we don't want to be racing at the end of the year to make the playoffs. Like, what does that actually mean? What actions does he take as a reflection of that attitude?
Physically dominating early on in the season.
But he already does that. That's already his thing. He already wants to run the ball.
But remember last year,
they throw a lot on first down. Is he going to throw deep on first down a lot?
But do you remember last year? I think part of it was like open with the Lions game. Lions came back. The Eagles game was actually probably a little too close with a quarterback that couldn't throw, Jalen, at the time. It was just they started 2-0, but it was a little bit of weird 2-0 for a good team, right? And then it manifested itself the next several weeks. They started losing all those games to good teams because they couldn't win in the margins. Like I think he wants to, like, when we play the Bears, I want to win 33-3, right? I want to just impose our will. And if that's running for 250 yards, but I think it's the way they play, like never letting up, pedal to the metal. I hear what you're saying about bombs, but it'll be interesting to see him implement just like and be cool with double thumbs up, bombs, non-schemed, like I have a play action hit, just like, are we running multiple go routes with Deebo and Danny Gray or Aiyuk on the outside?
But where do like young quarterbacks interceptions or mistakes? I feel like young quarterbacks mistakes come from, you remember watching young Baker? I know you do. Where he didn't realize that he couldn't run away from people in the NFL. And I wonder if some of those picks are going to be, it'll probably be a variation of all this stuff. What you're talking about, like the one he threw on Tuesday in the red zone where he just didn't get, or Monday in the red zone, he just didn't get to use check coming across the goal line in time. And he's looking across his body late. Ward picks him off.
Wouldn't you rather have a guy that's cool with, and this is probably a positive on Trey, he kind of feels his way out at first before he feels a little more confident running. Just watched him through a couple days. Again, practice, not the same as a game. The Baker's a good example, but I even go back to Johnny Manziel, who is an athletic guy that's like, I just run around. And he took off. Like Baker's like, Baker, you are a pocket quarterback. What are you doing? Johnny at least was a scrambler. And I remember him playing Kuechly on like a Thursday night game. And Kuechly caught him within 2 steps. Like, Johnny, what the fuck are you doing? Where I think Trey would be less inclined to like think he can outrun a guy. Like he would just maybe stop and throw, right? And who knows? That's another thing. Like as a scrambler, how's he going to play? Because this goes back to Russell and Deshaun, who I've said scramble to throw. Will Trey scramble to throw and then throw deep? Because that's also like a Mahomes Allen characteristic, right? And Watson and Russell, they scramble, keep play alive, and they do this. They say go that way
or across. I'm gonna throw back.
That's a Derek thing. Come back.
That's an all-time quarterback thing. You just
start pointing.
So I think we talked the other day about how much will he play in the preseason. I don't think that those reps are going to be critical, but time with Deebo I think is important for him. For Trey.
I agree.
We watched Jimmy Garoppolo throw on the field today. Weren't allowed to video it, although fans did. Somebody sent me, here's video. Do you want this video of Jimmy? And it's actually the stands. The fans sometimes have better views because they're a little higher. You can get, like, you never want to sit in the first row in an NFL game behind the bench.
It's the opposite of the NBA, isn't it?
Yeah, in baseball, you want to be up a little bit. Hockey, I like personally being on the glass. That's kind of my thing. I like to be on the glass. But
like the cat's view into your guys' backyard, into your guys' house.
That's exactly right. So, John, look at this. This is from the reports, Roto World. The Athletic Steelers reporter reports that Mitch Trubisky, quote, hasn't really been sharp while getting first team reps. They have a drill called the 7 shots drill, which involves the offense and defense facing off from the 2-yard line. Trubisky is 0 for his last 16 in the drill and has connected on 3 of 20 reps throughout of all camp. He's struggling in other areas as well, going 0 for 4 with an interception Tuesday and back-to-back overthrows. He still appears well ahead of Kenny Pickett on the depth chart. That's because Kenny Pickett's 3rd on the depth chart, their first-round pick. And Mason Rudolph said before Tuesday's practice, ominously, that he expects to get some first-team reps soon. The Steelers seem like they could use Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yeah, you've been saying that. I guess it's probably not crazy. I think the 49ers made a mistake. Like those guys, it's not the PR guy's call. It ultimately starts with John and Kyle. When we walked out to practice today and Jimmy was on the practice field throwing, to me, the 100% move would have been, and maybe, again, I don't know if John and Kyle are even consumed with it, but I would have wanted the video out today of him playing. You know why? He looked exactly like Jimmy Garoppolo. Like, he looks 100% fine. He just looks like Jimmy Garoppolo last year in week 5 or week 8. Or he's just Jimmy Garoppolo. That's him. He's healthy. He's running around. Tan's on point. Hair looks good. Arm looks completely normal. I would want that out going viral on the NFL. Even Lombardi came up to me. He's like, "What you put this? If everyone tweeted this out right now, that is a good thing for the 49ers." How many teams? I look at Cam Newton and Mayoko. There's an NFL team. There's 32 of them. The 49ers are practicing, and one of the 31 NFL quarterbacks is in the corner playing catch. That is happening at no other places in the NFL. You would want that out. I get it if he was like limping around or whatever. Is that the practice? Yeah, they do have a good view.
It's just, sent to me from the stands.
Because here's what happens during training camp. You practice
from the stands. That's
you practice, especially before the preseason games start. You practice if I'm the general manager or I'm the personnel guy, you practice for a couple hours. If your team's relatively healthy, you watch practice tape, you eat, every meal. But like, what else are you doing? Like, if you're the GM or the director of player personnel, until the preseason games start and you're like evaluating random players, there's not that going on. So if this happened, you would be like, our quarterbacks are struggling. We need to do another deep dive. This guy looks healthy. And I would call these guys like, can we facilitate something? Will he cut his salary down to $10 million? Maybe we'll throw Mitch in. You can get him. Help. Maybe we'll keep Mitch. Who cares? Right? And cut Mason Rudolph and have 3 quarterbacks. Regardless, Mr. Trubisky is nowhere near as good as Jimmy Garoppolo. So if Kenny Pickett is not ready, which clearly he's not, right? Like Trey Lance last year is immediately starting with the 2s. Mac Jones repping with the 1s. Like
also, say what you want about Jimmy. It was Jimmy that kept Trey Lance on the bench. This is Mitchell Trubisky and Mason Rudolph putting Kenny Pickett third on the depth chart.
And the difference to me with Seattle and these guys is Pittsburgh is not trying to not make the playoffs, right? Not only are they trying to make the playoffs, they go non-quarterback. We're a top 7-8 team in the league.
With Ben Roethlisberger, who people thought 3-4 years ago was done, they won 9 games. They won 12 games. They won their division 2 years ago.
Well, the Steelers and the Niners are the same. You give either one Justin Herbert, they're winning 14, 15 games, right? They just are. I think the Steelers would kick ass. Steelers defense is elite. They couldn't throw it past like 2 yards last year, and they got Najee Harris, who's banged up, but they always find running backs. I'm with you. I like that potential destination. I think the names that we have said over and over is not, whenever the dust settles, however it goes down, is not where Jimmy Garoppolo ends up. And I think that happens a little more often than people realize in sports. People just get dead set, like this is going to happen, and then it doesn't happen. And it's like, wow, he went where? Like, it's like Jimmy Garoppolo's on the Philadelphia Eagles, right? Or Jimmy Garoppolo, because you know what? What do winning teams want to do? They want to win. If you're Seattle, you're like, if we were really cool with just resetting this, maybe we'll just roll with these two guys, suck, whatever.
Sounds like Geno's going to be their quarterback.
Pittsburgh is not cool with a Geno or a Mason Rudolph type season. They're just not.
Think. No.
Well, your team's too good, right?
Trubisky? That was the best. I mean, they had a whole offseason to get rid of it.
I said it when the draft happened. I thought taking Kenny Pickett was an egregious error. And I know Mike said that they felt even more comfortable because technically,
Pittsburgh knows where the bathroom is.
Yeah, he plays in the building. Not quite the same because he did have an incredible season, but so did Solomon Thomas. I do wonder if you get a little too close sometimes. Aren't you better off just independently, like every GM, not knowing the player until you get to know the player in the process? Isn't that proven to be the healthiest way? Because again, if you're a high character, good guy, how are you not going to like the guy? You're going to, it's what I learned very early in scouting. Do not do the character report before you watch the tape. Because when it's a great guy, you're going to root for him. And when it's a shithead, you're going to root against him. And that shouldn't impact the player. Then once we get the player, we figure out that stuff. But when you know the person first, it's hard to overlook it. I got Jake Haener in the second round. I just do.
Exactly.
But
don't ask us. We love him.
How many times have you met a guy that you just I really like this guy, and you just beyond actively root for him? It happens, and you and I are lucky enough. I met you. You spent way more time with this guy, but one time when Bob Melvin said that he listened to our show, I have you couldn't pay me to root against Bob Melvin. Now he's got Juan Soto. I'm rooting for them to win the World Series. Stephen Vogt, you just meet certain people. He's just it's human nature. It's well, Middlecoff, why are you always standing up for your guy, Matt Nagy? I don't know. I've known him 12 years. I can text him, consider him a friend. I mean, what, you think I'm supposed to root for him to lose every game just because you guys think he's the village idiot? Yeah, is it going great? No. But am I going to admit it? No, not as openly as I will Brandon Staley. And if I knew Brandon Staley, but here's the thing. If Brandon Staley would have grown up a family friend, I would be biased the way I talked. It'd be I wouldn't go for it, but it's this guy is smart. Fangio believed in him. Fangio hired this guy.
Well, it takes time to learn, you got to give a guy time, John, to figure it out.
It's Mike Silver let the boat go hit the bottom of the ocean with Hugh Jackson.
Probably doesn't regret it.
Not at all. That's his buddy.
Well, Cleveland as a destination. I know you actually made a good point before we started on the show today about why Cleveland shouldn't trade for Jimmy Garoppolo. The NFL is looking for an indefinite suspension. They have appealed the ruling of a 6-game suspension, and Adam Schefter says that Roger Goodell will determine who will hear the appeal. So the NFL wants at least a year. Jeff Darlington just wrote this. I'm told the NFL is appealing for an indefinite suspension that would be a minimum of 1 year, but perhaps more significant given the structure of Watson's contract, it will also include a monetary fine. Money is now a significant part of the equation. So the NFL wants to suspend him for a year, and they want to fine him, not find him.
Like, you guys don't get to rig the situation when you screwed up, because he hasn't lost a penny yet, right?
Right.
Because last year, nothing happened. Judy Batista also just tweeted that, according to Robinson Report, the NFL argued Watson should be suspended for at least the entire 22 season. Do you think part of this, Judy Batista reported, citing a source familiar with the appeal, that the league again is seeking a 1-year suspension for Watson? NFL Network Steve Weitz reported Wednesday, like you said, could also seek a fine or player treatment. So to me, this is less about like they didn't want to have to get involved, but her suspension was so consistent with other ones that don't feel quite as egregious of what this guy's involved in. They don't really have a
Same
choice.
As Stephen Ross's.
Stephen Ross's, yeah. Do you think the Stephen Ross suspension randomly came out during this Watson thing? Or
how about the fact that it was both going to expire at the same time? Is that accidental?
What do you mean?
Well, I don't know.
What was going to expire?
Would be coming back. Like, they both would have been back week 7. Not that anyone cares where Stephen
I
Ross
hear a
is.
lot of people say that. Do you think the NFL cares a lot about that? Like, that's Coward's big thing. Like,
what?
They don't want, like, the league's humming, and it's like Watson then comes back. You know, it's like everything's positive, and then I actually think this Watson story, in a weird way, people like don't even, it's not as top of mind as it was 6 months ago. I'm not saying I think he should deserve to get a suspension, but let's just say the 6th game would have held. What is public outcry? And I'm part of the public outcry. I think it's egregious and ridiculous, but like, you've always said, like, what does that mean?
Well, that's why the Browns traded for him. Because they just looked around at each other and went, Jimmy, do you have the stomach for this? Like, Andrew Berry, do you have the stomach for this? Because it's going to suck for like a year and a half. And people are going to say, how do you look at your daughter in the eye? And people are going to write you letters, and somebody's going to tell you that they're canceling their season tickets. It's going to suck. But if he's really good in 3 years, you'll make more money than you did 3 years before you got him, and you'll win more games, right? Now, I don't think with Ben it's ever fully gone away, but look at what happened.
I think people called him Rapelessburger till he retired, kind of.
But you see what happened on his last? I mean, he like jogged around the stadium high-fiving people, right? Like, you can create your own bubble for yourself.
With enough money. The difference, though, on that specific example, and I would throw Kobe in this too, they never left teams. When it happened, they already had equity built up with the group. Let's just use those two guys as examples, right? They got in big trouble. It was just like, did something really bad happen? But Kobe had been a Laker for 7 years. When Ben happened, I think it was several years in his career. He'd already been to a Super Bowl, won one. You know, the hard part is this is like a hired gun that has no equity with the group. I think if Deshaun was going through this and he had been the consistent Pro Bowler and the star for the Browns, I think he would get way more support locally. It's like, listen, we've seen this guy in the community. Everyone liked him. He's been going to children's hospitals. He's been nice to the kids. You know, I think it's hard when there's no equity in the group. Like, even you see it with Jimmy. Like, Jimmy came here, right, as not a mercenary. He was traded here, but he was not a 49er. And then you see him out there with the people. Like, he cannot walk by the fans and everyone starts screaming Jimmy and wants to high-five him. He means something to those people, right? Like, that's probably even a bad example because he's been on multiple teams. Deebo's a better example, or Kittle. To that little kid that's 12 years old sitting 5 feet behind us, I'm not, these guys haven't been in any trouble, but my point is, like, to that kid, he's only been a 49er. All his equity is with this group, the jersey I'm wearing, all my friends. We love that guy. Watson, like, what the fuck's the difference between, like, Deshaun Watson and Amari Cooper to Browns fans? Like, I've never even been here.
But that's why you get $230 million guaranteed, because you're banking, if we just win games in the end, if I win games, I will at least have a home somewhere. Maybe everyone else hates me, but I'll have a home somewhere. Part of me does wonder.
I feel like it might get weird.
Well,
Could this be an all-time disaster move? Like when you and I are like 45,
John,
we look back.
Browns.
Like, remember when Watson got traded to the Browns? What a disaster!
This is like all the Derek Jeter doc before the doc hasn't gotten to the Red Sox actually breaking through and breaking the curse. But all these Red Sox Yankee games where they're like, Derek, did you think the Red Sox were going to beat you? And he's like, the Red Sox? It's the Red Sox. No, they choke. That's what they do. Like the Browns.
But at least they make the playoffs. The Browns are like a joke.
At the time. But the Browns screw shit up. That's what they do historically. So, no, you're right. I hadn't thought of it, but is there a scenario where this just is whatever the worst possible scenario is for them? Is that on the table? The answer is yes. Part of me wonders, though, does the NFL push all of this stuff now? So if he does play week 7, they can make it really, really clear. This is not what we wanted. This is not what we wanted. Not what we wanted.
If you had to put right now a 5-year future bet and your bet 5X's, you had to take $10,000 and bet on Kyler Murray or Deshaun Watson in 5 years, which guy is like, it's a no-brainer if you're in a bar talking with sports fans, like, yeah, this guy's the better player, had the much better run, like his teams had more success. Like, who would you feel more confident betting on?
God.
It's a hard one. You got to be only, those are your only 2 options. See, Hollywood got pulled over, it looks like, on the way to practice today, going like 100. Went to jail. Hollywood got arrested.
Just got activated.
He got arrested today.
I didn't see that story.
Arrested. Now, it was a 7 a.m.
Speeding? Arrested for speeding? Or
I'm going to guess he was headed, to practice, maybe going like 100 miles an hour and like a 40. I didn't click on the link. I arrested, though, Hollywood.
I think if you took, God.
I think Watson's the better player, but the Browns, the situation.
Kyler, even though Kyler doesn't like tape, and Deshaun's better than him. I like this answer, Trey Lance.
It's not very good options.
Do you have is there somebody, would you?
No, I would be like, can I just keep my money?
Or you just have my money and I don't want to be associated with this stupid bet?
I just think that I think the Cardinals are in major trouble, but I think the Browns, let's just assume as of right now he doesn't play for the next year. He's going to miss 2 years of football in the prime of his career and then come back over this cloud of negativity of just being a scumbag creep. Like, ultimately, people are going to think he's a scumbag creep. It's just that simple. It's like, whoa, Kraft! You mean got a handy from the owner of the place. This guy was... It's not even... Sue Robinson admitted it was insane. He was constantly lying. Does that mean he raped anyone? No. But I never look at the guy the same. Again, I don't look at him like... part of it is I looked at him such a high regard. Like, I held this guy... I bought into Dabo. I was like, this guy is just like Lamar, Mahomes, or Herbert. He's just a fucking fantastic guy. You just want to be around him. Turns out it's just not true. That's what's crazy. Like, and we've said this all the time. The standard at quarterback is unfairly high, but for a reason. They by far get the most money. They get all the women. That's the thing. I think people like. Even my mom said something this morning. I was driving to Niner practice. She's like, God, I just saw that thing with Deshaun Watson. She's like, he's a really good looking guy. What is he doing? And people I know in the NFL were like, he's just, I guess he's a little introverted when it comes to going out. He doesn't like partying or whatever. It's like, I think there have historically been a lot of introverted star, quote unquote, athletes that have just done fine in the lady department. They didn't need to resort to massage therapists.
I heard a great story today.
Not everyone is just like walking into the room owning the place,
It's true. But when you're a star and you're rich, I heard a great story today from I'll leave the superstar athlete's name out of it. It's an old story, but a buddy of mine told me this story. He used to work with this guy. And he was saying, in the Jeter doc where Jeter starts naming off, for people who haven't seen the Jeter documentary, there's a scene where Jeter names the nightlife and he's like, Monday night, China Club, Tuesday night, whatever, Thursday night, whatever. You remember that part?
Yeah.
Jeter's like Monday night, China Club, Tuesday night,
Yeah.
whatever, all the names. And so this guy says to me the other day, he's like,
he went through it pretty quickly, even at 45 years old.
He's like, well, when Jeter's at China Club, I was there one night, Monday night at the China Club with the superstar baseball player from a visiting team. He's like, the superstar baseball player, nicest baseball player I've ever been around. That's what this guy said. He goes, if you were ever with this guy, he never let anybody else pay for anything because he'd had a big contract. The night we go to the China Club, Jeter and two guys roll in. They sit down at the same table with this guy and the
P. Diddy Fat Joe.
And it's just models like them. And then after a little bit, they leave. Well, Buddy looks over and there's another baseball player there, and that guy's having the time of his life. And the superstar guy goes, all right, guys, I'm out. This guy's thing was he'd go to strip clubs and pick up strippers. That's what he would do. He would take strippers back to his hotel.
The player,
the superstar, not Jeter. His thing was very simple. This Frank Sinatra line. I don't pay him to come over. I pay him to leave. So they're not a problem for me the next day. And,
you're saying he took one of the models home from the China Club?
No, I'm saying the superstar player went to a strip club and just
that was he was going to go. Gotcha. The models were going to be too much. It was going to be hard.
The models were they were gone with Jeter. But there's just another world, a level of world that, that these guys live in where everything is accessible. And it's part of what makes, that's not even close to the worst part of the Deshaun story, but it's part of what makes the Deshaun story weird.
Maybe if I ever get just an enormous big house and host a party, I'm going to put a sign on my front door that says, I don't pay you to come over, I pay you to leave. And then just have like a bucket. If I was super rich of just $100 bills, it's like, take one. Basically like acknowledging that when I say it's time, everyone just leaves. I want you on my time, but it's like when I'm not feeling it anymore, everyone just immediately goes. There's no like laggers.
Just like it's like at the end of practice, you just have a blowhorn.
Bring it up.
Thanks everybody for coming. Good effort. Throw your cans in the recycling on the way out.
Genius.
This from the coach. She says, this was an offensive line comment from before. Thank you, the coach. Trent Williams couldn't even toe the company line in his interview with Mooch. He had to admit he was concerned about the O-line's youth and inexperience. I didn't see that interview with Mooch, and maybe Yam, or maybe it was just Mooch. I don't know. I didn't see that, so I didn't know that Trent shared that. So that's good to know. Thank you.
Well, in fairness, they lost Alex Mack and Lakeland Tomlinson. One guy got $30 million. The other guy went to like 7 Pro Bowls. Like that's 2 of their 5 guys that just disappeared. One in retirement, one in free agency, were like kind of NFL stalwarts. Tomlinson was a starter for a team that won 4 playoff games and went to a Super Bowl the last 3 years and was his running mate, right? And Mack that was the first year those 2 guys have ever played together, but Trent Williams and Alex Mack knew about each other, right? If you would ask Trent Williams 5 years ago, who's one of the best centers in the league, he would have listed like 3 or 4 of them. He would have been one of them. Like I understand from him, he's looking at these other guys in his mind. Like when you're Steph, at first, remember Steph wanted Avery Bradley, not Gary Payton, because you just look at like, give me the established guy, this guy's a fringe guy. You can earn trust over time. By the end, he loved him, right? They didn't want to lose him. They're like, pay him. But like I understand him going like, guy, you just said that Banks, beside Kyle Trask, is the only second rounder to not play a snap.
He played 5 snaps. Second fewest snap.
To Trent Williams, I've seen a couple snaps that I get for him. Am I always going to have to be helping this guy out?
Well, that's what Kittle and maybe a little Juszczyk. Juszczyk might have a pretty big
I
role
would be the most fascinated to have a cocktail with Trent and get his take on him.
On Banks.
Because I think he would be very bullish. Like I don't think he's blowing smoke on the Trey stuff because he just sees the physical abilities, and if he's a good guy, like he's like, this guy's gonna be fine. But as an offensive lineman, it's a little more black and white, right? Like, are you strong enough? Are you stout enough? It's not like Banks smart enough, played at Notre Dame. It's just, are you good enough? You know, some guys, they all kind of look the same, but they clearly do not all play the same for whatever reason. Like if you just got 200 offensive linemen in the league, there might not even be that many, but like 8, let's just 8 times 30, right? Whatever that 8 times 10 is 80. So 8 times 3 is like 200. Yeah, like 200 offensive linemen, guards and centers. The majority of them are all going to be under the same vein of size and shapes, right? But Quentin Nelson plays a lot different than the other guy, right? Or Tomlinson plays a lot different than Banks. But you might walk through the door and be like, I think Banks looks a little bit better walking through in shorts and t-shirt. It's like, well, that ain't the case. That's sports. Like, I mean,
right. You can
not
the
every
strongest
guy
guy in
looks
the
like
world
Trent and
does.
plays like Trent.
Yeah, the strongest guy in the world can't necessarily block Drake Jackson just because he's the strongest person on earth, right?
100%.
A couple other things I want to show you. Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold continue to rotate with the Panthers' first-team offense in a battle for QB1. Said Mayfield, everything's been extremely transparent. It's not said to one person or the other. We both hear both things. Matt Rule said he's not close to a decision. What are these guys doing?
Well, what'd you expect?
I don't know that I expected anything different, but what are you doing? Why do you acquire Baker Mayfield to then have a camp battle with Sam Darnold, who you've already determined isn't better than Baker Mayfield? That's why you got Baker Mayfield.
But I don't think you've determined that with your own team yet. You know, I
then
think.
What do you bring Baker Mayfield in for?
Because Fitterer comes from Seattle. They always compete, competition. I don't think it's that crazy. But again, I think they're kind of choosing between two guys that they're kind of.
Does Sam Darnold have a chance of being their week 1 starter?
I'd say 50-50.
Okay. Well, then it's a real competition. I think it'd be pretty insane if Baker Mayfield's standing there, hands in his shoulder pads week 1.
They gave him a fifth round pick. They're paying him $3 million.
I understand, but why even invite this guy in if you're maybe you're right. Maybe it's a real competition.
Well, maybe you're right. I guess Baker probably, I think most people thought Baker was going to start. I got them both playing in several different iterations.
That's true.
Throughout the season.
That's a good point. So
with
that in mind,
the order, yeah, maybe Baker starts the first 2 games and Sam gets 3, then Baker comes back and then, then he pisses someone off. They end up cutting him about week 10 and then Sam finishes it out and they give Corral the last 2 with an interim coach. That I could see that kind of rotation. So multiple iterations of Sam and Baker to then interim coach last 2 games, Tepper. Let's get a look at Corral. I got Corral about Christmas on getting 3 starts, interim coach. How do you like that? That's my lock of the year.
Oh, what's their late season schedule look like?
I mean, it's probably like Saints, Bucks, Packers, or something.
Games that you will not watch.
Corral running for his life.
Amazon Prime stream. I heard a great story real quick. I was listening to the Andy Staples podcast. He interviewed this guy who wrote a Belichick book. Belichick shows the team a film, before a game. The two little Belichick notes. One, they edit down the film for time. So I guess one of the jokes the author said was Alabama players never knew why everybody was looking for Private Ryan because they edited that part of the movie out.
Because Nick wasn't going to watch a 3-hour movie?
Because they didn't, yeah. This movie, we only got so much time before dinner, between.
You think they're just looking for Private Ryan for fun?
Yeah, just they got to edit it down. So they edit down all these movies.
Is there a chance Mark Ingram's like, wait, Private Ryan's family died and he was the only remaining member of his family out there? That's why Tom Hanks was looking for him? Like that guy, whatever team he showed it to back in the day.
It was Alabama that he showed it to.
Amari's like, God, that makes so much sense.
So that was one part of it. They always have a backup DVD. That's how detailed. They bring 2 copies of the same edited movie in case a copy fails. The year before, the night before they beat Texas for the national title,
Miracle.
again, Colt McCoy got hurt.
Was it Miracle? Is that what he showed him?
Yeah. How'd you know that?
Because I've heard the story.
Oh, you've heard that story. Okay.
Oh, well, I just heard he showed a Miracle. I think he's shown Miracle to several teams.
I guess he wanted to show Invictus, which is the Matt Damon rugby movie, but Trevor Moad, his mental coach, convinced him to show Miracle. The year before, when they played Utah in the Sugar Bowl, got their ass kicked.
Yeah.
Saban showed The Ring. And I guess the story is that Nick always tries to get his pregame speech the next day to have some theme from the movie in it. So Nick folded The Ring somehow into his pregame speech. It's a terrifying movie, right? I do. With the woman crawling out of the well.
I give. They had just lost to Tebow to go to the national championship. I even think Nick kind of waved the white flag on that Utah game. Yeah,
people forget Utah kicked their ass back in 2008.
Yeah, it's a long time ago, but never forget Tebow had kicked their ass in the SEC championship game, and that game was to go. You lose the SEC championship game with a chance to play the Natty. Who did it? Was it 2 years ago? Bama beat Georgia and got to go to the playoffs, and Georgia played Cincinnati, and then Cincinnati beat the shit out of Georgia, and everyone's like, yeah, and they were kind of right. Cincinnati was good, but Georgia's like, you think we just lost to Alabama, go to the national championship, we're gonna take fucking Desmond Ridder seriously? Come on, guys. I always give you a benefit of the doubt if you lose
100%.
Only one game, though, the SEC championship game, to go to the Natty. Like, that's a big blow. And now the playoffs. And then you draw the little engine that is actually sweet, but their whole thing is like, no one gives us respect. And they're like, yeah, we ain't going to give you respect. We don't care.
Well, Oklahoma, Boise, right? The big comeback, Statue of Liberty. Boise was kicking their ass. Oklahoma came back in that game.
Yeah. Where I don't give you the benefit of the doubt is like, couple years ago, might have been Willie Taggart's year. They got fired. Boise played like Florida State, like week 2. You get your ass kicked. You were taking them seriously week 2. You know, bowl game. I give you a little bit of benefit of the doubt, but you get beat week 1 or week 2. You can't go like we were overlooking Fresno State. Bullshit. You know, these games matter.
Tyler on the stream, don't take that Alabama win away from us here in Utah. LOL. Kick their ass. Utah doing big things this year too. Not take it away, Tyler. Big Kyle Whittingham, guys.
Well, I think where you get the most credit, Boise and Utah, is they parlayed it into dominant programs.
Right.
So ultimately, like, oh, yeah, you can say their motivation, whatever. Check out the next decade for us.
Right.
I think those two programs
and Utah had done it. Utah had done it already in the Fiesta Bowl.
Like, to me, does Cincinnati have 7 straight years of going 11-2? You know? That'll be tough. That'll be difficult.
Yeah.
Though they've actually been kicking ass since like I was at Fresno State. Like they've been a really good program.
Yeah, I mean Brian Kelly was their coach.
Yeah, pretty good hire.
Do you know Uberflus played for Saban at Toledo?
Did not know that. Like him a little more after you said that.
Right? I know. I'm just looking over my Niner practice notes from the day.
How did someone mention that out there? How did you get that nugget?
It was just part of that was mentioned, and the author mentioned that.
Well, was he like a linebacker for Saban?
You know, I don't know. You assume he played defense, right?
You know where Nick Saban went to college?
Linebacker. Yeah, somewhere weird.
It's a state. It's something state, but it's a small state. You know, it's. Once you hear it, though, it's not even close to Power 5.
Not Kansas State, not Indiana State.
No. Yeah, I would say you're in the vicinity, Indiana State.
Missouri State.
Yeah, I think you're still kind of in the area.
Tennessee State.
North.
Connecticut State.
More west.
Where?
You probably won't get Kent State.
Kent State. Is that why he liked... Was Edelman from Kent State or Toledo?
I once said Kent State. It was someone corrected me. It was Toledo.
I still would like him. Toledo guy.
Yeah. Tough Ohio guys.
All right. Anything else to add today? We did an O-line breakdown, so that's what you come here for.
Off day tomorrow. Some of these guys, it's not blaming Kyle. He knows what he's doing. I've never been an NFL player, and I did a reel making fun of myself. These practices now, it happens a lot in the NBA, kind of the back and forth. I do truly understand if I'm Dante Whitner and I came into the league in the mid 2000s. Like I'm not even that old. I see him out there. He looks, honestly, you just see Dante Whitner. I feel like he's like our age. He might be.
That's on him.
Yeah. He looks fantastic. I can see him watching this thinking like, my football career looked nothing like this. I mean, guy, 3 days into pads, they don't even make it to the third day. It's these guys, I hope they really realize, and there's not a huge, like, I would say the difference between football and basketball, there's not like Trent Williams and Anthony Munoz aren't talking shit about each other. Like the respect level in football is a lot different than basketball. I feel like in terms of like just the game, right? There's not as much animosity, but they got it really, really good. The money, the setup for the players, it's a very, very healthy just environment of just easing into the season now. I haven't gone to a college practice in years. I would imagine college practices are harder than some of these. Like, is Nick Saban taking the pads off after 2 days?
I think college practices, some definitely have, I don't want to say a greater sense of urgency. You have no preseason games.
Like, if you and I had gone to the first 5 days of LSU's practice, I'd imagine there's a ton of urgency down there with Brian Kelly in the program.
Yeah.
Now it's different. He's trying to establish. That might be an unfair example, but like Kirby off the national championship, I would be stunned if after 2 days of pads he took them off. Now there are rules. I mean, you can't go like, doesn't college have rules? You can't go 7 straight days, day off, or is it a little different?
I'm sure there are some rules.
There's no more double days in college. Like
yeah.
the pros.
But
my point is like these guys should be very, I hope they realize how lucky they are. Obviously, you got to have the God-given talent, but like the time they were born in life, you get a ton of money and just how easy it is on your body. Maybe some coaches are a little
feel
harder
that as
than
a podcaster too. Everything you just said applies to
streaming. Very, 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 but I admit it constantly how lucky this exists.
Acknowledging it. By the way, good adjustment today. Tuesday to Wednesday. No porn bots in the chat today. So I think that adjustment was good.
Put a guy in the chat on timeout.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, you kind of bothered me.
I mean, it's our house, John. Send somebody home if you have to. So everybody, hopefully the porn bots stay away and we continue this semi-clean operation we got running here. Friday we'll be back. Thursday will be Friday. Jimmy get traded Thursday, maybe.
Friday stream after practice.
Yeah, we'll be back at practice on Friday, so we'll get you some updates then. Thanks for hanging. Share it with people. Thank you for helping the show continue to grow. And
subscribe,
like the video, podcast. Go check out the YouTube podcast. Give us a review, 5 stars. We appreciate that. All right.
Adios, everybody.
Later.